Hey everyone, just wanted to make a quick little message about the Patreon situation before the episode begins. If you don't care about Patreon whatsoever, you can skip to this point in the episode. So a lot of you may have heard about the recent announcement that Patreon was going to charge an additional fee for every pledge you may have made on Patreon to your favorite content creators. And this caused a huge rift between the content creators and the users on the platform. So much so that Patreon has recently announced that they are not rolling out this change in billing and instead just keeping business as usual for the foreseeable future. And while this is good news for everyone involved, I feel like it is important to note that there were many people who left the platform, who left Patreon because of this announcement. And I feel like the word should be spread about this reversal of the decision so that people who would continue to support these content creators, if not for this fee change, have the ability to come back and continue to do so. So on behalf of everyone who uses Patreon to help fund what they do on the internet, I want to thank you all for your continued support and generosity during these uncertain and trying times, especially with the recent YouTube apocalypse on top of this Patreon drama. You help make what we do on the internet possible, and I do not want you to ever forget that. Thank you again, and enjoy the episode. So, after 190 episodes and over 6 years in, we're finally talking about Gundam. Oh boy. Now, far be it for me to assume that Gundam as a franchise needs any kind of introduction, but I feel like it's one of those things that anyone at all familiar with anime has heard about, but way fewer people know a lot about. And that's because it's a series that follows multiple timelines and continuities. It's not like Dragon Ball, where it's always been about Goku and his friends battling enemies. Entire histories change depending on what series you're happening to watch, and only a handful of characters appear in more than one series. So with that in mind, as long as you know the basic premise of Gundam, you can launch into any one of the numerous television shows, OVA series, and films, and not be too confused about what's going on. No matter the continuity, there are a few recurring constants. It's the future, and mankind has colonized the stars. There's the Earth Federation, or its equivalent, all that really changes is the name, and they are there to protect the colonies in the vast sea of space. And there are the villains that threaten the peace. They could be the Principality of Zeon, the very first and most often used bad guys. They could be the Rockefeller Foundation. They could be Zaft, or they could be Kyoji! These wars are fought with gigantic mech suits called mobile suits, and while the sides of the conflict change in appearance, you can always count on the presence of a Gundam, a special type of mobile suit that only the cream of the crop can properly pilot. More on that later. The most iconic of these Gundams is the RX-78 series, or whatever it happens to be called in the series du jour it happens to be in. It's no stretch to say that the RX-78 is the very definition of iconic, becoming something of a cultural touchstone for Japan, or at least it should be considered as such, or else standards for making life-size moving replicas has drastically diminished. And there you pretty much have it. Gundam is a sprawling space epic featuring cool-looking mechs kicking the crap out of each other. At least that's the reading on the surface level. Buried beneath the countless characters, mech designs, and weapons lies the central thesis of nearly every single entry in the franchise. War is bad. Diminutive as I put it, Gundam is an anti-war anime, but the message is, more often than not, lost on the fact that its fans keep coming back to the series to see more robots blow up good. After all, it's hard to take an anti-war message to heart when the anime keeps framing these battles as pulse-pounding excitement. While it's easy to say this would be a classic example of cognitive dissonance, I believe there's a simpler explanation. That's sweet, sweet figurine money. We're in the money! We're in the money! We've got a lot of what it takes to get along! Really, it all all comes down to the fact that it's impossible to sell someone a Gunpla model of a boy crying about losing his family to war. And yet Kyoto made a mint off those creepy Revoltech Woody dolls. Life's not fair, is it? At the end of the day, a title's ability to balance its anti-war message with thrilling battle sequences and memorable mech designs is what truly separates the wheat from the chaff when it comes to Gundam. So for this month, we're going to be looking at 3 examples of the franchise with this regard in mind. One that does this magnificently, one that does not, and one that doesn't even try in the first place. Guess which one Mobile Suit Gundam F91 is? Released in 1991, appropriately enough, F91 was originally planned to be a new television series planned by franchise creator Yoshiyuki Tomino. However, problems arose between the crew and, of all people, Bandai's Gunpla manufacturers that halted production. Scrapping together what they had planned up until that point, Studio Sunrise and Bandai chose to animate F91 as a feature film instead. Apparently 13 scripts were written before this change in production, and they tried to fit all of that plot into one feature film. Need I remind you all how that usually works out in anime?
Hey, let's rumba!
How can you be a machine?
My body is your mother's, Tetsuro.
Hey, let's just get this over with. This is Mobile Suit Gundam F91. We begin on Thanksgiving Day, it seems, which is a first for us here on Anime Abandon, as a pageant is underway. Gee, I wonder who our main characters are going to be. Could it be the dark blue-haired guy yanking at the arm of a fiery redhead?
Hey, nice legs. Hey!
Don't treat me like that. You're an engineering student who's not even in my classes.
Get used to this dialogue, folks, because nary a single line will go by without an encyclopedia's worth of information being crammed into every single sentence. It's like if Wikipedia wrote a script. While it seems Red doesn't want to participate in being raffled off like Bill Murray in Groundhog Day, bigger problems arise when the colony comes under attack and... Okay, what in the world?
I thought we didn't have any enemies.
I guess we do now.
Cecily, the day I've been waiting for has arrived.
This guy drove a bread truck into space, and no one's batting an eye. That's the true Wonder Bread, hostess. So, who seems to be leading the attack, then? Let's spin the wheel! The Crossbone Vanguard!
The Crossbone Vanguard is a militia that was formed by the Rona family to establish the space aristocracy, Cosmo Babylonia. Led by the mysterious Iron Mask, they will restore order to the colonies by returning us to a noble caste system. They appear nowhere else but this movie and a sequel manga series. Congratulations, contestant! I'm sure you'll be very happy with your prize.
It's an all-out cluster as people scatter to the four winds, with Blue here having to gather everything he can to save his home.
I hear there's a war going on out there. Is that true?
Come on, Seabook, grab the survival case.
Wait. This guy's name is Seabook. Well, this is Gundam, franchise for the criminally named. So, D-Bag here, along with Red and a scrappy troop of other kids, start amassing to escape into a shelter, gathering more kids along the way. A baby just watched his mother die right before his eyes. Why is this so hilarious to me? Oh, wait, no. I know why. It's because she died by getting bonked on the head by an empty shell casing. Look, I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but couldn't she have gone in a more dignified way? Maybe taking a blast from shrapnel, or maybe catching a wayward brick to the dome? Anything that doesn't make for a scene that feels right at home in a Hanna-Barbera cartoon? Bonk! And while we're at it, that goes double for you, Simon Birch. Yeah, when was the last time you thought about that movie? Anyway, the kids are holed up in a museum and attempt to fight back the Vanguard, but it's a hopeless waste of time. And hey, look, the black guy is the first to die here too! Small world.
We need more guys like you here, so you gotta come around and stop it. Let him rest in peace. He's gone. No, but it's Arthur. He can't die.
I've known it for all my life, allegedly!
So after that Oscar-baiting moment, the kids once again try to find shelter, but are stopped by an Earth Federation blockade. Realizing that the Vanguard aren't targeting civilians, they decide to use the kids as human shields.
They'll never attack us if we can use the children as living shields!
At least now we know where Mark Waid got the idea for that scene in Insufferable.
Stay the hell away from us! Don't do that!
You can't resist us! Stop now or be destroyed!
We are not gonna do this! We're getting out of here!
Asshole, you can't take the kids as living human shields if you're shooting at them! What even is this anime? The beginning is this long, listless trudge of a battle that has no sense of pacing or dramatic tension. Things just happen in seemingly random order as the kids bam from one place to another. It's plotted like a video game, except even video games at least give context as to how characters got to where they are and why. Most of the time.
How did you get here?
We were at the port when we were attacked. And then, well, I ended up here.
Like here, for instance, all of a sudden D-Bag's dad just floats in from out of nowhere and tells the kids where to go, even though his jetpack shouldn't be able to work because he's not in a zero-gravity environment, and those dinky little thrusters couldn't even roast a marshmallow, let alone jet around a full-grown man. Ah! For a series that bends over backwards to try and explain every single science fiction element in its story, down to inventing the pure bullshit that is the Minovsky particle, stuff like this is a slap in the face. And speaking of a slap to the face, the idiocy continues as the baker with the bread truck turns out to be Red's father, who is a part of this invasion, all to abduct Red and bring her back to her birth family, the Ronas.
It seems the Rona family is in need of your presence. I'm merely here to carry out our grandfather's orders.
Our grandfather? Take me home.
I'm sorry, we can't afford to relax yet. Please hurry.
Why did you have to wait until after your violent takeover of the colony to bring Red back into the family? Do you know how many goddamn times she nearly died during this? Could have died there. Could have died there. Should have died there. It's like the Rona family have no concept of task management. But the real stupidity is still waiting for us.
If only to facilitate searching for her, would it not be a wise thing for you to join the Crossbone Vanguard?
You're taking me home, so I can do that?
A vague, hazy promise to find my missing mother, who the audience only just found out was missing? I guess that's a good enough reason as any to betray the colony. And she does. She just goes with the Ronas, leaving D-Bag here to die in a pool of his own blood. Oh, sure, he turns out fine, but she couldn't have known that. All she did know was that her adoptive father here plugged him, and now she gets to be a part of royalty.
Nevertheless, you are the eldest daughter of the Rona family, proponents of the Cosmo aristocracy. In time, you will grow accustomed to being waited upon by us, your inferiors.
You shouldn't talk about yourself like that, and I'm a full-grown woman capable of— oh my god, are those peeled seedless grapes? This is all happening suddenly, I'm sure you all realize, but the anime makes sure there's room for a pointless meandering musical montage of the Ronas glad-handing over their recent conquest. And we finally meet Benedict's real father, and— hoo boy!
I'm a pathetic man who managed to lose his wife to another man, Theo. After that, I swore to bring to life all of the ideals of your grandfather, Maitza. On that very day, I began my struggle against my own weakness, and I eventually became as you see me now.
Am I watching Gundam or a long, protracted, convoluted Kinkster video on Pornhub? There's a lot to unpack here, so I'm gonna try my best to cover the lunacy of this plot. So, Benedict is the daughter of the Cuck Lord here, but his wife ran off with this guy because he's a dick, and since then, he's been the man in the Iron Mask for his shame. And this is where it completely loses me. The patriarch of the family needs a figurehead to lead the people of their new empire, Cosmo Babylonia. I know. So instead of choosing one of his grandchildren here, he decides to somehow contact the guy who ran off with his daughter and granddaughter to bring back Benedict. And he does, for some reason. You might be thinking that he's doing this out of some kind of perverse sense of honor for the royal family, but if he stooped the heir apparent's wife and ran off with her, methinks he shouldn't have had much regard for the royal family to begin with. And yet, here he is, handing her off back to the Rona family like it ain't no thing. The leaps in logic this story is expecting us to make are so vast and so ill-advised, not even Johnny Knoxville would dare ride a rocket over it. What's more, Grandpa here says it's because she has spent time as a commoner that she would be perfect as a queen. So what, is he trying to make the best out of the situation? There's no way he planned for her to be taken away as a baby only to be brought back in. So what, if she wasn't, she'd be their version of Prince Harry? I have a feeling that all of this might have been smoothed over if this was a television series, like it was originally planned to be, but I doubt it could somehow get over the hump of Prince gets cucked, gets daughter back. And we are still not at the dumbest part of this entire story. Whatever's left of it at this point. The kids, including D-Bag, make their way to a new colony that's also under heavy fire from the Vanguard. They manage to meet up with the Federation training vessel and immediately start palling around like they've known each other for years. And yes, this is the first time we are seeing these characters.
You know, ever since I was a kid, I've kind of wondered why the towns of our colony are built in such a classical way. But since the Crossbone Vanguard arrived, I think I understand. What do you mean? I mean that maybe somebody in the Federation leadership or the Colony Public Corporation is conspiring with the Crossbone Vanguard.
And yes, that's never followed up on. Oh look, the random podunk training facility is housing an experimental Gundam, and D-Bag's mom here apparently worked on it. You know what that means. D-Bag's a new type! Oh, joyous of joys, we finally get to talk about the albatross across the entire Gundam franchise's neck. New types are fucking dumb! For the uninitiated, a new type is supposed to be somebody who possesses an evolved trait that allows them to just be that much quicker, that much more alert, and that much more bullshit that they can handle a Gundam. Really, this contrived plot point is just to hand wave away the fact that the first Gundam pilot was a teenager, but then you think about how it seems that only the Federation has new types in Gundams, you know, until they retcon Char into being a new type, but then he wasn't, but he still kind of was, and okay, this is turning into a rabbit hole of logic. The bottom line is that when backed into a corner, the creators of Gundam turned pretty much every lead character of every Gundam series of the past 40 years into the special, which kind of goes against the central theme of war, just a tidge. It just seems to me that the plot point of people becoming better at being a Gundam pilot runs parallel to the sentiments of keeping the peace. Here you have a group of people who, through no action of their own, gain abilities that make them that much better at killing other people, and you're trying to package this in stories about the atrocities of war? At best, it's this unnecessary element that undermines the theme and muddles what it's trying to get across. And that's when it's relegated to just being in the pilot's chair. Don't get me started when it becomes this metaphysical ability to sense other new types like they were the goddamn Jedi. All I got left to say about the matter is that Lord of the Rings wouldn't have been better if it was revealed that Frodo had some kind of innate magical resistance to the One Ring's influence, and likewise, Amuro Ray isn't a hero just because he was born with the genes to do it. Got it? Moving on. If it wasn't apparent that this was patchworked together into a film before, it becomes blatant by now as both Benedict and D-Bag stumble around in scenes that have no rhyme or reason, bringing up plot points and revelations out of nowhere. Apparently, D-Bag's mom left a code that would bring the Gundam up and running, but the first time we hear about it is from D-Bag's sister saying she already solved it. Meanwhile, Benedict takes in her grandfather's words about how Earth's future must be one of a complete singular monarchy, and she is just lapping it up like a blank canvas. All the while, the anime is reminding me of better sci-fi I could be watching now. Well, 6 out of 12 better sci-fi. The battle between the Federation and the Vanguard is only heating up, and now that the F-91 is fired up and ready to go, guess who is gonna pilot it?
If you don't want your sister to be killed and tossed out into cold space, you're gonna do it!
I just don't see a reason to fight.
That's an order! Got it?
Are you crazy? It's not like he can be a combat pilot overnight!
Oh, ye of little faith. And competent writing. Oh, double joy! Looks like Benedict is a new type as well. They're growing like weeds in July in this dirt plot. Aren't we just the luckiest sons of bitches? Why, the only thing that can match our good fortune is the crippling amount of sarcasm I'm jamming in this sentence! Okay, I'm cool. So the battle finally reaches the colony where the kids have settled, and D-Bag is in the robot. The battle starts, and it ends. It just freaking ends. D-Bag blows up some suits, one of the commanders remarks he might have been too arrogant, and we never cut back. They could have all just went home and had a pizza party for all we'll ever know. We instead cut to D-Bag sneaking into Benedict's castle, only for him to be found out and he runs away. Need I remind you that her manor is still on the original colony back at the beginning of the movie, which means in the span of a single cut, he went from this colony back to the original colony, only for him to fail to rescue Benedict, and he just winds up meeting back up with his dad, again at complete random. And now Benedict fully takes on the responsibility of being the queen of Cosmo Babylonia. It feels like this movie just skipped over an entire act. I don't even have to explain to you all how this is terrible storytelling. Watching a movie shouldn't feel like I blacked out in retrospect. Oops, D-Bag's dad is dead. I'm sure that's sad. But that ain't nothing. If you want to see a truly horribly botched death scene, yup, the lovers have returned so that Benedict's mother can take her back, which begs the question of why the interloper here brought Benedict back into the fold to begin with.
Mother, please. We can take our time and talk this over once the operation is concluded.
Cecily, come on, you're not Bararona.
But I am. I'm Bararona, pilot of the Vignagina. I'm certain of it. And this freedom you've always spoken of sounds to me now like an excuse to run away.
Hold on to that little chestnut. So she gives her mom the deuces, the mother berates the cucklord a bit, and the interloper drops dead. Why? Who knows? Christ, man! The anime's not that terrible. Meanwhile, again, D-Bag and friends wonder aloud if they should just up and surrender the Gundam to the Vanguard, but in comes the greatest thing about this heap of a movie.
Yeah, I miss her!
Stop this! We're on battle alert! And how about getting in your pilot suit, new type?
Hey, who are you calling a new type?
You're gonna pilot it!
God damn it, I love this scene. I can watch it on a loop from here to Canada.
You're gonna pilot it! You're gonna pilot it! You're gonna pilot it! You're gonna pilot it!
If I was capable of emotion, I'd be weeping right now.
I wonder if this biosensor is syncing up with my biorhythm.
Pray tell, asshole, what would a biosensor do if not that? Turning the tide of the war is the fact that there's a defector from the Vanguard who hands over crucial data to the Federation. Why is she defecting? Because she's jealous that Senpai wouldn't notice her. No, I'm not making that up. She's jealous that her commander is paying all of his attention to Benedict, and so she defects and tries to one-up him in battle, and he just quickly kills her. Character arc complete.
Rear guard, move up! Sabine, you take the rear.
Lady Bera, please, you can't.
Maybe instead of impotently yelling for her to come back, maybe you shouldn't have brought your future queen to an active battlefield in the first place. You know, just a thought. Of course, Benedict and D-Bag duke it out. And I swear to God, when this scene happened, it literally broke me.
I just don't understand. I thought when you cut your hair that meant that you were going back with the Ronas.
Oh no, I was confused and you guys weren't around, so I really didn't think I had a choice.
Really? That's what happened?
Just look at me. I'm still Cecily Fairchild.
No, you are not, you opportunistic bag of shit. What fucking balls! She has the nerve to say she was confused and just did things because she didn't know any better. You looked pretty damn calm and in control when you told your mother to fuck off and called yourself a Rona.
I'm Bararona, pilot of the Vignagina. I'm certain of it.
At first I thought this was some kind of ploy to get in on the inside and sabotage the Federation, but no! She earnestly wants to come back. After all the shit we've been sitting through and she just about faces again? How much of a whimpering, easily manipulated little fart of a human being do you have to be to pull this kind of crap? And even if this was a TV series, and this turn happened over the course of a season instead of a movie, it still would be an insulting smack in the face just on the sheer gall of it all.
Oh, but you were so confused because you didn't have somebody by your side to pull your panties down so you could take a piss.
Fuck you, Benedict, you have the moral backbone of a tube sock full of dog food. So now that the gang is all here, Benedict can tell the Federation that the Vanguard's right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing, which is planning an extermination of everyone on Earth and the Moon via Beyblades! Your attempts to make this movie schlocky fun are too little, too late, F91. But it is appreciated all the same.
Cecily, what are these things?
They're using them to massacre everyone!
The mobile suit squadrons from the Crossbone Vanguard fleet were nothing but decoys!
Nobody knew! Not Grandfather, not the fleet, and not Sabine!
What?
It's Iron Mask!
One man did this?
Yes.
Then you and I are gonna have to stop him!
How do you know any of this? And why did the animators insist on this shot looking like it took place in a tumble dryer? Yeah, for such a meh-looking film, the anime clearly goes out of its way and puts in the effort for quite a number of spinning shots, to the point where it's actually distracting. Like, did Cucklord here intend to play Duck Duck Goose with Benedict in this shot? Because otherwise, he's doing this for no reason other than to make the dry, boring scene of them talking look like it's interesting, when it's still them just explaining their backstories and character motivations to each other. You know, the way no one does. Well, with Cucklord's plan divined by Benedict because, new type, why the hell not, they use her ID text to slip through the Vanguard's defense and take him on himself, who's piloting what looks like a Star Fox 64 boss if it was on an Electric Light Orchestra album. So much for dignity.
Frightened? I'm also capable of thought wave control.
Is that the anime's backdoor excuse as to why Benedict keeps turning sides more than the Big Show? I hope that's the case, because even if it doesn't make a lick of sense, it'd just be a complete non sequitur otherwise. Cucklord hurls his daughter into space, but in comes D-Bag to new type the shit out of his weak point for massive damage. And as if that weren't enough, he then new types reality itself and manages to divine Benedict's location in the depths of space. Fantastic! You better not be room 1408ing me right now, movie, because I swear to God I'll... This movie sucks. While a lot of its problems can be chalked up to its shaky production history, it doesn't take away the fact that F91 is a densely packed brick of crap that holds nearly everything bad about the Gundam franchise. I said nearly everything. But this is still only a small part of the Gundam legacy. A legacy we are continuing to explore. And with Christmas just around the corner, what better time is there than to talk about one of the most popular and enduring chapters of the entire Gundam franchise, and why I personally can't stand it. Till next time.